Bruchim haboim. Welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together on Daf Memtes Amid Aleph at the very top, the new Mishnah. The Mishnah discusses when a person finds himself on Erev Pesach Yud Dalid Nisan and the date is Shabbos Kodesh. What is he to do in terms of destroying his chametz? Arbo Asar Shechaliyos b'Shabbos on the 14th, that comes out to be on Shabbos. Mevarin hakol milifnei haShabbos divrei Meir. Rabbi Meir is of the opinion that he destroys all of his chametz before Shabbos, on Erev Shabbos, and he only keeps that which he needs for Sudo Shabbos. The Chachamim argue, and they say, no, he can destroy everything on Shabbos, although certainly he cannot burn it, but he'll have to mefarer v'zoreh, he'll then crumble it and throw it out in the wind, or in the sea, or in the toilet, and flush it down. Whatever it is, he will destroy it on that day when he's supposed to do it, which is the normal time to do it, on Yudalid Nisan. Rabbi Eliezer ben Tzadok, Oimer Truma milifnei haShabbos v'chulin bizmanon. Rabbi Eliezer ben Tzadok, he makes a chiluk. He says when it comes to Truma, which is difficult to destroy, to find those to eat it, after all, it's only going to be something that can be eaten by kohanim, so therefore, that has to be destroyed before Shabbos. But chulin, regular food that can be eaten by everybody, that can be destroyed on Yudalid on Shabbos. The Gemara now brings a support for Rabbi Eliezer bar Tzadok. Tanya, Rabbi Eliezer bar Tzadok, Oimer, he said the following: Pamacha shovas abba biyavne. One time my father, Rabbi Tzadok, he was spending Shabbos in the city of Yavne, V'chal arbo asar liyos b'Shabbos, which came out to be on Yud Dalid Nisan. Ubo zoinin memuno shel Rabbi Gamliel, v'omar, and Ben Zoinin, who was appointed the head of Rabbi Gamliel's household, he said, Higia eis levair, the time has come to destroy all of our chametz, which means on Shabbos he destroyed all of the chametz. I went after my father Rabbi Tzadok, and indeed we destroyed all of the chulin chametz that was there that we had until that point. In other words, Rabbi Eliezer ben Tzadok says, granted we destroy the chametz on Erev Shabbos if it's truma, but all other chulin we destroy on Shabbos, just like this Maisa told with his father Rabbi Tzadok. The Mishnah now brings the following: when it's Yud Dalid Nisan Erev Pesach, and a person is traveling, he's walking towards to doing a certain act. So Mishnah is going to explain if that act is a mitzvah or if it's a rishus. Says the Mishnah, Hahoylech lishchoit es pischoi. We begin by giving a list of acts that are going to be mitzvah performances. He's on his way to then shech the carbon Pesach. V'lamul es b'nai, or to be mal his son. V'le'echo sudas erusin b'beis chamiv, or to eat a sudas erisin in his father-in-law's house. All of these are considered to be mitzvah performances. V'nizkar sheyish lo chametz b'toich beiso, and he reminds himself that he still has chametz that he was not yet mevarer in his house. What is he to do? Says the Mishnah, Im yochel lachzor levara lachzor lemitzvosoi, if he's able, he has enough time to go back to mevarer the chametz and then return to perform the mitzvah, then yachzor v'yevar, that's what he should do. He should go back to mevarer the chametz and then he should return to do the mitzvah, for example, to be mal his son. However, v'im lav, he doesn't have enough time to do both, then mevatloi beliboy, then the Chacham said he can go ahead and mevatil meliboy. Here, there's a discussion amongst the Rishonim. Does that mean only in his heart, or does it mean he requires to actually state it with his words? But I'll call upon him, he can then mevatil his chametz. He doesn't have to go ahead and actually mevarer it. That's going to be enough midiaraisa. We learned in the beginning of the Masechta that although midiaraisa, one can mevatil beliboy, the Rabbanan were concerned that maybe he will not mevatil belibo properly, and therefore they required him to then also mevar it, ayidei the bedikas chametz, and mevar the chametz. Al kopanim, the Mishnah goes on to say another list of incidences, of occurrences that may take place on Erev Pesach. Lahatzil min hanochrim. He's on his way and he sees that there are Jews in the hands of Nochrim that he wants to be matzil to save their lives. Umin hanahar, or somebody who Chalila might be drowning in the sea, in the river. Umin alistim, or there are bandits. Umin adeleka, or there's a fire. Umin mapoiles, or there is a wall that fell down. All of these things, there's an issue of hatzolas nefoshois. Here the Mishnah says yevatel beliboy, without any distinction, even if he might have enough time to go ahead and mevar the chametz, and maybe also then go ahead and matzil. No, we are concerned first and foremost about the lives, and therefore he's going to go ahead and mevatil the chametz belibo. He doesn't have to then think about going back, so he can go be matzil the nefoshes. The Mishnah goes on to say velish bois shvisas harishus. That means to say before Yontif, he wants to then make another makom shvisa. We know a person has 2,000 amos in every direction from the makom shvisa. So he decides that where he lives, he wants to go further to the east. So he is shoyves makom shvisa 2,000 amos to the east, which will make then on the onset of Yontif, where he remains there, that's his new makom shvisa. Now he has 2,000 amos in all directions from that place where he was shoyves before Yontif. So Mishnah says if it's a reshus purpose, a non-mitzvah purpose that he's doing this for, then he must, says the Mishnah, yachsor miyad, he must return immediately. However, the diuk is if it's for a mitzvah purpose, then we have the same criteria that we said before. If there's enough time to go ahead and go back and mevar the chametz, and then go ahead and perform this mitzvah of being shovei shvisa, then he must do so. If there's not enough time, they can mevatel beliboy. The Mishnah continues and now talks about when a person has meat of koche kalim, which has to be eaten within the walls of Yerushalayim, and he brings that meat outside and realizes that he has that meat of the carbon of a koche kalim. What is he to do? Says the Mishnah, V'chein, misha yotzem Yerushalayim, v'nizkar sheyish biyodo basar kodesh. He leaves the confines of Yerushalayim, and he realizes he still has kochim in his possession. Im ovad soifim sarfu b'mekamo. If he passes the place called Soifim, where you can still see the Beis HaMikdosh, then we don't require that he goes back, and we allow him to then burn that kochim where he is situated. V'im lav, however, if he did not yet pass Soifim, then choizer v'tzarfu lifnei abira me'atzem marocha. Then he goes back, and if he wants to then burn it with the atzim aroch, he must do so by the bira in the Beis HaMikdosh. V'ad kama hein chayzrin. Now the Mishnah asks, what is the shiur for a person that he has to go back in regards to the kochim? What is that amount? And what is the amount in regards to chametz that also we'd have to also go ahead and go back to mevayer? Says the Mishnah, Reb Meir Oimer Zevazeh Kebeitzo. Reb Meir says the shiur, both in kochim as well as in chametz, is a kebeitza, whereby if it's going to be a kebeitza, then he'd have to go back. If not, he'd have to mevarer, or in the case of kochim, burn it where he is. Rabbi Yehuda Oimer Zevazeh Gezayis. Rabbi Yehuda argues. Rabbi Yehuda says half of that amount, a kezayis, that is the requirement for him to either go back for the kochim, or to go back and mevar the chametz. V'chachamim oimrim, the last opinion is the chachamim. Basar kodesh b'kezayis v'chametz b'kabeitza. If it's basar kodesh, then the shiur is a kezayis. If it's chametz, it's kabeitza. The Gemara will explain the machlokes between Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, and the chachamim. Ask the Gemara right away from the following brayso. You told me in the Mishnah that if a person makes a sudas erusin, so then if he has enough time to go back and mevar his chametz and then go ahead and mekayim the mitzvah of sudas erusin, he must do so. However, he does not have enough time. They can mevata beliboy. Ask the Gemara, hahoylech leechol sudas erusin bebeis chamiv velishboy b'shvisas harishus yachser miyad. Here it puts in the brayso the sudas erusin with somebody who's being shoyves a shvisas reshus. So here the brisa implies that sudas erisin is a reshus, and therefore the din is you have to yachzer miyad, you have to go back immediately. Answers the Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan loikashio. It's not a difficulty. Why? Because Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yosi. One is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, the other opinion is Rabbi Yosi, the Tanya. For it says in the following brisa, Sudas erusin reshus. The Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says it's a reshus, and therefore he is the author of this brisa that would require to be yachzer miyad, just like somebody who's sheve shvisa be reshus. Rabbi Yosi oimer mitzvah. However, Rabbi Yosi is the author of our Mishnah, who says that since Sudas Erusin is a mitzvah, so then it would require then you to, first of all, if you have enough time to go back, then you could go back in Mevar and come back to the mitzvah. But if not, then you're allowed to the Mevata Beliboy. Says the Gemara, V'hashta da Omar Rav Yehuda, Rav Chizda, Machlek is besuda shinio, aval besuda rishon divra kol mitzvah. Rav Chizda said, now says that Rav Chizda said there's a machlekes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Chizda. The machlokes is in regards to Suda Shniya. Now, Suda Shniya means that after there's the Erusin, so the Chassan gives what's called Sivloinois. He gives gifts to his bride. So they make a Suda. Is that considered to be a Suda as mitzvah or not? So the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda is that it's not a mitzvah, whereas Rabbi Yossi says it is a mitzvah, as follows. Then we can say, according to this, Afilu Teimo Hava Rabbi Yehuda. Both the Mishnah and the Brisa can be authored by Rabbi Yehuda. The Mishnah is talking about Suda Rishona, Hindu Sudas Erusin. Therefore, that's a mitzvah. Even Rabbi Yehuda agrees Sudas Erusin is a mitzvah. And that which it states in the Brisa is not referring to the classical Sudas Erusin, but rather the Suda of the Sivloinois, the gifts that were given subsequent to the Erison. Tanya, the Gemara brings a brisa which really is a support for this. The Gemara now brings a support for this Tanya. It really should say, like Tosfos asked, Tanya nami hochi. Omar Rav Yehuda ani lo shomati ele sudas erusin. Rav Yehuda says, I didn't hear anything other than sudas erusin, that's the sudas mitzvah. Aval lo sivloinois, but not sivloinois, which is only a mitzvah d'Rabbana. It's only a reshus rather, and therefore there's a sheet of Rabbi Yehuda where Rabbi Yehuda is choylek, and he holds both the sudas erusin as well as the suda for the sivloinois is a sudas mitzvah. Omar Rabbi Yossi, therefore, it comes to say ani shamati sudas erusin v'sivloinois. So here we have a brisa that says forth what we just said just before. The Gemara now brings another brisa in regards to sudas that are not mitzvah. Tanya Rabbi Shimon Oimer, Kol Su'uda she'eino shel mitzvah ein talmid chacham rashoy lehenois mimeno. A suda is not a suda shel mitzvah. It's a suda's reshus. A talmid chacham is not permitted to have benefit, enjoyment in such a suda. Kigon Mai asked the Gemara, what kind of suda that is a suda is not a mitzvah suda that we're referring to? Rabbi Yochanan Kigon Bas Kohen li Yisrael. A Bas Kohen is to marry a Kohen, and instead she marries a Yisrael of lesser stature, whereby that's considered to be not a Suda's mitzvah. Ubas Talmi Chochem la'am ha'oretz, or a Bas Talmi Chochem to an Am ha'oretz, that's also not nechshav a Suda's mitzvah. So although these are celebrating a wedding, festive wedding, it's a Suda that you normally would think is a mitzvah. Rabbi Yochanan says it's not a Suda's mitzvah if it's a Talmid Chacham that's marrying an Am HaOretz, a Bas Talmid Chacham to marrying an Am HaOretz. Do'om Rabbi Yochanan Bas Kohen li Yisrael ein zivugon oila yofe. Rabbi Yochanan says that a Bas Kohen who's to marry a Kohen instead marries a Yisrael. The Gemara will qualify this shortly. The zivug is not oile yofe. Maihi asked the Gemara, what is this referring to? Rav Chizda, what is the sense that it's not going to be oile yof, it's not going to have a mazel toiv? Says the Gemara, Rav Chizda, oy almona, oy grusha, oy zera, ein lo. It'll either be a divorce or he will die, leaving her an almona, or they will not have children. Rashi explains this based on the psukim. The pasuk talks about a bas kohen, kitia li'ish zar, when she's going to then be with an ish zar, a non-kohen, when she marries him, So she's no longer going to be able to eat truma. The next pasuk says right away, Ubas kohen kitiya almana ugrusha v'zera ein lo. There it's talking about kipshutoi, that if she who was married then becomes a widow or is divorced, doesn't have children, then she can go back to her father's house and continue to eat truma. But the Gemara is making a drasha that this bas kohen who married a zar, a non-kohen, she then will end up being either a grusha, an almana, or zera ein lo. Gemara goes on, b'misnisa tan, it's taught in the following brayso, koivra oy koivrosoi oy meviasoi lidei anios. Either she will bury him or he will bury her, or it will lead to poverty, such a relationship. Fact the Gemara, Eini, is that so? Veho Amar B'Yochanan haroitze sheyis asher yidbak bezar shel aharon. Rabbi Yochanan states that a person who wants to become wealthy, wants to have the segula of wealth, of ashirus, he should marry the zera of aharon. Kol shekain she'atorah v'kuna ma'asarton. How much more so that the Torah and the kahuna will go ahead and cause wealth if it has both the kahuna and the Torah. Gemara says, "Lokashya habit hamid chacham haba amaretz." That which it states before that will lead to poverty, that's when the Am Ha'aretz marries the Bas Kohen. That which it states that it will lead to Ashirus, or have the Segul at least for Ashirus, that's talking about a Talmid Chacham who marries the Bas Kohen. Says the Gemara, Rabbi Yoshua Nosiv Kahanta. The Gemara tells us various Amoraim who married a Bas Kohen. Rav Yehoshua Nasiv Kahanta Cholash. He became weak. Omar, he stated, Loi Nichalei LaAharon Da'adbok Bezare Dahave Lekahasno Kiano. Rav Yoshua said about himself, since he married a Bas Kohen, it must be that he's sick because he's not fitting, he's not roy to be somebody who is going to be a son-in-law, so to speak, of Aaron HaKohen. Rav Idi Bar Avi Nosiv Kahanta, on the other hand, Rav Idi Bar Ava, he married a Bas Kohen. Nafku Minei Trei B'nei Smichi. He had two children who were tremendous Talmidei Chachamim. Rav Sheshet Bereid Rav Idi and Rav Yoshua Bereid Rav Idi. Rav Papa says in a similar light that he had benefit from marrying a Bas Kohen. He says, Iloi Nasivna Kahanta, Loi Atri. If it wasn't for the fact that I married a Bas Kohen, I would not become wealthy. Rav Papa became a wealthy man. Rav Kahana, Tosfos points out, was not a Kohen. And he states that he married a Bas Kohen. Ilo nasivna kahanta loy galoi. Had I not married a Bas Kohen, I would not have then been exiled from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael. Amrulei, the Talmidim said to him, to Rav Kahana, V'olam Mokom Torah Galisa, you were going to Mokom Torah, Eretz Yisrael. He says, Lo gali kedegali inshi. I was exiled by force, not the way the normal situation when people leave and go from, let's say, Bavel to Eretz Yisrael on their own volition. Rav Yitzchak kol hanen misudas harishus lesoif goyle. He says all that are benefiting from misudas rishus, he says that at the end will lead to exile, to goyle. Shneimar brings a pasuk, va'oichlim korim mitzoin, and they ate fattened sheep from the tzoin, from the herd of sheep. Ve'agolim mitoich marbek, and the calves from within the stalls. The Ksiv, it says right afterwards, Lochein ata yiglu b'roish goylim. Therefore you will be, now they will be exiled to the head of the goylim. The Gemara brings now a brayso in regards to a Talmid Chacham's, his connection to excessive indulgence. Tomer Rabbanan kol Talmid Chacham hamar besudosa bekol makom. A Talmid Chacham who will increase suudos in every place. Soif machariv, as based on this whole list over here, because of his indulgence, he will then have to support such indulgency, and have to then have parnasa, which will be difficult for him. So at the end, he's going to then machriv his bias. Ma'almenes ishtoi, make his wife a almana, umiyasemes goizolov, and make his children orphans. He's going to have to support his habits of indulgence, and therefore he'll have to then leave and travel to make his money and be able to finance himself. The Talmuda mishtaker mimenu. As a result, he'll be busy with other things. He'll forget his learning. Umachloikis rabbis ba'ois olav. He will then also get into machloikis, and because he forgot his learning, he will not be able to then explain different positions correctly. Alternatively, he'll have to borrow money from store owners on credit, and we get into machloikis in that way. Udvarav einam nishmoim. His words are not going to be accepted and heard. Mechalel shem shomayim v'shem rab v'shem aviv. He'll profane the name of heaven, shem shomayim, the name of his Rebbe and the name of his father, because of such a lifestyle. V'garem shem ra loy ulabonov b'nei bonov ad seif kol hadoros. He'll cause a bad name for his children and all future generations to come. He asking, what is this bad name that we're referring to, that he's going to then gorem to his children and all of the children midari doros? Amar Abaye karule bar machim tanuri. They're going to call his children the son of somebody who warms up the oven. He's constantly trying to warm up the oven to indulge in his pleasures. Rav Amar bar merake dekubi. He's the son of somebody who has to dance in a bar and entertain people and lower himself in order to then get drinks. Rav Papa Omar bar malchich pinchi. He's going to be somebody who's bar malchich pinchi. He licks, malachich pinchi is that he licks plates. Again, because of his overindulgence. Rav Shamei Omar bar mach rova. He's going to then cause his clothing to, instead of sleeping on beds, he's going to sleep on his clothing by folding them and putting them down, because he's not going to then have the yishuv hadas to sleep in a proper setting. He's going to be on the move all the time in order to then support his indulgence.